Hey, folks, good evening. Welcome to the pre-show, which is nothing much to write home about other than we're just getting set up. Just making sure everything's flowing right. That's going, and that's going. Let's get our little scrolly banner going. Boom. There's that. I stopped using the big banner. This thing. Just too cumbersome. So that's out. Although I could. See, boom, that's what it would do. Then everything has to be readjusted. This is what we do in the pre-show. This is what the pre-show is all about. This show goes live over on the radio station at odysseyradio.com at 3 minutes after the top of the hour. So welcome. Wednesday evening. We got all our sound is set there. Streaming is set there. Bing, bang, boom. We are ready to roll. And I think tonight we are live over on YouTube as well as my Patreon channel. And we're live over on Facebook. And I see Sterling Brew has liked us over on Facebook. Good to see you. I don't check Facebook that often because we don't broadcast that often on Facebook anymore. We've got less than 1 minute to go before we go live over on the radio station. So I hope everybody is having a great day, that you've had a great day so far and are starting to have a great evening. I'm going to take a sip out of my Intrepid radio tumbler. And we're very close to getting rolling. Here we go. Hey, Jada Miner. Good to see you. You're over on the Facebook page. All right, guys. Grumpy Stack is here. Here we go. Going dark. Stay tuned. We'll be right back.
The Intrepid radio program with Scotty Roberts. Intelligent talk.
Happy Wednesday, folks, and welcome to the program. I am Scotty Roberts, your host of this here, my show, the Intrepid radio program, broadcasting over on Odyssey Radio, technically Subspace Odyssey Radio. And it's an arm of TrekFederation.com. You can go take a look at their website. And you can also go over to OdysseyRadio.com. Hear the show in its audio format only. And you can come over to my YouTube channel, youtube.com/Scotty Roberts. Or you can go over to my Patreon, where you can also help support this show. And go over to patreon.com/Scotty Roberts. So welcome, everybody. Glad that you are here tonight. And glad that you made it into the show. And I'm going to do something we haven't done for a while to get us rolling. Remember these? Those of you who are regular listeners. These spark courage. And somebody's calling me, of course, right at the beginning of the radio show. Ken Ballos, it's you. And you know what? I'm going to take this only because it's Ken Ballos. So let's go. Hey, Kenny. I'm just starting to broadcast the show right now. So we're live. Hey, everybody. There's Kenny Ballos. Say hey. Can't see him there. We'll bring him on because it's Kenny. That's not how you call into the show, though. So come on over, check out the show. And maybe we'll see you over there, and I'll talk to you after the show if we need to. All right, brother. Yes. And it's the hour difference, you know. All right, brother. See you in a bit. All right. We don't normally take calls during the radio show, but because that was Kenny Ballos, the Kenny KB Ballos, we went right ahead and took the call tonight. So Michelle Kenham Free is here over in the chat room. Grumpy Stack is here. Randall Flagg. And that's people are starting to gather and come on in. There's a lot more of you out there. You just haven't shown your face in the chat room yet. Thank you for being here. Those of you who are listening over on Odyssey Radio, thank you for being here. If you want to also see the show in its video simulcast, come on over to the YouTube channel, or you can go on over to my Patreon page, which is, of course, a members only page, but we're broadcasting here tonight just for you. So come on over to the members only page at Patreon and show your support for this program with about the cost of a cup of coffee once per month. There's Kenny Ballos. Good to see you, Kenny. And Sarah Yusuf. Good to see you. Glad you made it in. But this is what I was saying. We used to start the show with these a long time ago, and every now and then, spark courage. 50 ways to be bold. Now, this is a book of box of faux matchsticks, and you open it up, and you got your fake matchstick. What's with me in being able to say matchsticks tonight? Matchsticks sounds like I have a speech impediment or something. So I would open these up, and we'll just rifle through these, and we'll grab one at random, and they've got little sayings on them. And let's do a little extemporaneous messaging here tonight. Here we go. Here's one. Let's see. Let's see what it says. Let's see if I can surprise myself with this one. Oh, it's upside down, I think. I'm looking at it only in the monitor here. Advocate for yourself and ask for something you want. Advocate for yourself and ask for something you want. It's very interesting that topic would come up on the matchstick serendipitously because we are talking about self-love tonight. I'm going to define that. We're going to talk about that a little bit in just a little bit here. But advocate for yourself. And how did that end? It said advocate for yourself. I got it upside down again. I can't see it in the low light here. So I hold it up to the monitor. I know that's riveting radio, but so advocate for yourself and ask for something you want. So what does that mean to you? What does it mean to advocate for yourself and ask for something you want? Stand up for who you are. Advocate for who you are. Say, hey, look, I advocate for everybody else around me. I advocate for my spouse if you've got one, my significant other if you've got one, your kids if you've got them, your family, everybody around you, perhaps at your job and all those places where you rub elbows with other people. You may advocate for somebody all the time. Do you ever advocate for yourself? This is what I want. Have you ever asked for this is what I want and this is what I need? And I'm talking about that advocating for yourself and asking for what you want in the sense of perhaps in the sense of self-loving. This is and there's a reason I came up with this topic for tonight. We'll get into that. So, how often do you do that? Do you do that? Do you ever advocate for yourself? Do you ever stand up and go, "This is what I need and this is what I want," and whoever the powers that be need to hear that, I'm going to speak to you. I'm going to address you. I'm going to do what I have to do. So, Scotty must have had alphabet soup tonight. He's using big words. I like to read because it makes me talk real good. So, yes, alphabet soup tonight. Nothing is random, says Michelle Cannon Free. I believe that. Nothing is random. Nothing is by chance. There is no such thing as circumstance, as coincidence. Sometimes, maybe sometimes there's little coincidences. But like, I was just talking about the color yellow, and look, there's dandelions all over my yard. Is that a coincidence? No, not really, but you get what I mean. Real coincidence, the things that we call coincidence, I don't think are coincidence at all. There's something at play. There's a great plan. There's a great coordination of events and things going on out there. So, Think about that. Think about advocating for who you are, what you want, what you need. And, only I think that there are some rules about this. Even as we get into talking here about self-love, there's a difference between self-love and selfishness, being selfish. Maybe we can say I could advocate and say, maybe it's okay to be selfish at times for things that we need and things that we want and where we wanna be in life and so on. So it's okay to do that. But talking about self-love, talking about advocating for self, that's all stuff that, we can do as long as we keep our focus correct. We keep the focus in the right place. We're not asking selfishly. We're not loving selfishly, in spite of something else or somebody else, or in place of the things where we have obligations, the things where we have responsibility. So, Randall Flagg says lots of synchronicity. I'm really bad at self love. Sarah, uh, aren't we all? I am too. Some people might think I'm not. Some people look at the self-promoting I do and stuff like that's self-promoting. That's self-promoting my businesses, self-promoting my books, self-promoting my radio show, self-promoting all that junk that I do. Well, that's my living. Let's say you go to a job and you're not in the promotions department at your job, but you have a job because somebody at your company is promoting what you do to somebody else. What would you do if you worked for yourself? You would self promote. You would have to, or you would sink and go under. So there is self promoting. That's good self promoting. Michelle Cannon Freeze talking about it's all divine orchestration. Man, I'm having trouble talking tonight. I don't know what it is. You know what I think it is? I fell asleep for about 45 minutes before the show started. I was just sitting, I had something to eat, and I sat there on the sofa like this, and I woke up. And of course, nobody's here. For those of you who don't know, the whole family is gone this week. Rainey being a scoutmaster for the girls troop in the Boy Scouts. Well, the BSA now it's called. She has camp this week, and Rowan is one of the girls in her group. And so she and Rowan went off to camp. And then Flynn has his Boy Scout camp the same week. So he's off at camp. Then it was just Ellie and me until yesterday. Grandma came over and picked her up. And she said last week, I may come and grab Ellie for a couple of days and bring her up to my house. And some of it's a good thing. It's not that I need help taking care of my kid, but I needed some help with the little one. I'll admit, I needed help keeping her unbored, keeping her happy, just giving her a phone or a tablet or sitting her in front of the TV or saying, go out and play when other friends of hers are gone and there's nobody to play with and there's dad. Now, Rainey does a lot of that with her in the summer months. She just hangs with her a lot, and she hangs with mom, whatever mom's doing. Whenever I go somewhere, I would take Ellie with me. But I was stuck down here working on a project in my studio all week, still working on it, illustration project. And I can't I can't go up and play and hang out and go do things with Ellie all day long. So I felt kind of bad for her. So it was good that grandma came and got her for a couple of days, gives her an outlet to go hang with grandma, go do some things. So that's not self-love stuff I'm talking about. That's just for me. I'm busy enough that I couldn't spend all day just watching my daughter. So and the way work comes here, you do it when you got to do it. And so, hey, Born Flippy, that's my friend Rick. Having Nana take L is you getting some self love time, brother. Well, there it is. There's that too. And it is kind of quiet. You know what self love time looks like for dad around here? When I'm all alone for a week, it looks like cleaning up the house time. Give it a deep cleaning. And I've got this thing where I want Rainey to come home on Saturday. They come home late yesterday. I want her to come home and have the house be more spotless than it's been in a while. I want her to just come home, be able to relax. Coming home from a and it's hot up here this week, by the way. They're about an hour and a half away at camp, and, it's right in the same area, and it's hot. It's super hot here right now. It's almost oppressively hot outside. It's all subtropical outside. Like I've said about Minnesota, Wisconsin, the interesting thing, we get those sub-zero winters, those subarctic winters, but in the summer, it flip-flops the whole 180 degrees. And, so it doesn't get up to 114 like it is in, Arizona, but, it'll get up to 105 degrees, but then dew points rise way up, and we have that 98% humidity, it's unbelievable. And so it's hot and humid up here right now. I've stepped outside 2 or 3 times today for a couple of minutes, and I'm done. I'm like, "Air conditioning, here I come." 98 tomorrow for New Jersey, says Randall Flagg. So, Michelle Cannon-Free says, "Transmutation, alchemical process." She said she posted a quote yesterday that read, "I took the same energy I used to hate myself and turned it into confidence and love. That's how you recycle." Boom. There it is, Michelle. And you know what's catchy about some of this stuff about talking about self-love, especially for guys? We don't think that way. We don't think in those terms, in that language. You don't see many guys get up in the morning and say, "I'm gonna have my coffee and think about how I'm going to self-love today." It's got a pardon my putting it's got this masturbatory feel to it, the way we say things. And so self-love is something that it's got this ring of this sing-songy, new agey, all of that kind of stuff that's wrapped around it, the psychobabbly stuff and all of that. And so we don't talk about it the way we should because we avoid using that kind of language or the feelings that that kind of language gives us. And so it's something where we have to be kinda careful about, how we're going to say things. But did you know that your trump card in life is self-love? This is what you've got. You have to enjoy, honor, dig yourself, if you will. "Hey, I like me." And, self-love is the first step to lasting change in our lives, and having a glowing vision of the future helps all of us tackle the core beliefs about ourself, such as doubts about your own worthiness for success, that you may have held back until now. So as you peel back the curtains around your core self, you become ready to tap the source, if you will, of all change and success. Self-love, forgiveness, forgiveness of past failures, things like that. But self-love doesn't happen by luck or by the grace of God. You have to create it. It's something you have to, like Michelle just said over in the chat room. I've decided I'm going to take all that energy I use on hate and maybe sadness or the other things we have, take those and convert those over to self-love. I'm going to use that to accomplish the things I need to accomplish. Born Flippy. Rick says, "I meditate every morning for 30 minutes with a 10K lumen lamp. I hit the beach every day, even though I'm in Colorado." With your 10K lumen lamp, yes. And, I wish I would love to take 30 minutes a day to meditate. I've talked about meditating on this show. I just did it yesterday for the first time in a long time. I just sat outside, and it didn't feel uncomfortable, it felt unusual to me because I hadn't done it in a while. And I just tried to sit outside and try to every thought I had come in, I tried to clear the just try to clear it out, and I tried to meditate on just being peaceful and calm and, the things that I needed to achieve peace and calm. That's self-love, by the way, of one form. So, I said today that there was a reason I came up with this topic for tonight, and I have 100 topics all at once that I could talk about, but I wanted to come up with this because I was contacted by a dear friend of mine, online, and many of you may know her, and, as somebody I've always called for years, I've called her my yeoman, and it's Jennifer Roberts. She's in Newcastle, England, and, she is an intuitive, and that's what she does for a living as well, and she just contacted me and said, "Hey, I wanna call you sometime this week." This was over the weekend, and, so we ended up talking today, and she talked about this whole self-love thing, about, and that's how she kinda wrapped up. We talked for a good hour, hour and a half, maybe even 2 hours, I can't remember, and it was really good, and it was really helpful, and, so I thought, it's something I don't talk about enough is this self-love thing, so why don't I talk about that? Grumpy Stack says, "I miss Jennifer." We all do. I think she'd be listening now, but it's about 3:30 in the morning there, over in Newcastle. So, she got me to thinking about this, and um I will tell you this, she did a little healing thing for me today, I think emotional healing type of thing, and she had me sit back. I'm sitting right here, we're talking on the camera, and she had me sit back and, relax. "Put your head back," she said, "close your eyes," and she gave me some it wasn't as trite as saying it was just an affirmation. Anything can be an affirmation. "Hey, hey, you're good looking." That's an affirmation, maybe a minor one, but there it is. And so she did I don't know, she didn't call it Reiki, Michelle, maybe that's what it was, but, she spent a good 10 to 15 minutes doing this, and it was just, energy work. And, I get a little uncomfortable with that. Not that I didn't express that, and I didn't go, "Oh, I'm uncomfortable." It was nothing like that. It's just I'm not used to that. I'm not used to somebody doing that for me. I'm usually the one that's doing that for somebody else. And so it was so nice. And then she talked about self-love, and I said, "You know what? I'm gonna talk about that tonight a little bit." Jenny is intuitive, Sean. She's very good. And, so among the most important elements of self-love is, number 1, honoring yourself and who you really are. Let me ask you that. We talked about with the little matchbook things, talked about advocating for yourself. Do you honor yourself? Honor is a word we don't use a lot these days anymore. What does honor mean to you when you uplift somebody, you honor somebody, or you feel honored in their presence and you honor them? Do you honor yourself and what you bring to the table? What your life is here? So the first step, I think, to really loving yourself is honor yourself and honor who you really are. Love is your birthright. And as, Chardin once said, he's, talk about who he was. He said, "We are not human beings having a spiritual experience. We are spiritual beings having a human experience." Now, that sounds trite and new agey all on the surface and all by itself, and it is to a certain extent. But when you think about that, we're not just human beings having spiritual experiences, we're spirit beings that are having a human experience, and we've gotta work at that. We've gotta work at recognizing that, of honoring who we are. Ken Ballow says, "To know me is to love me, and I love myself." Who said that? Said KB. Who said that? "To know me is to love me, and I love myself." KB said that. That's what he said. That's right. Sean Stroik says, "I fail at this." Um, we all fail at this a little bit, and that's why I think it's worth talking about. Without we gotta get over the little giggles, and especially guys. I love myself. Yeah, right. We've gotta get over that, and we've got to learn how to love ourselves. So honoring ourselves is the first thing. Telling the highest truth is the next thing, which is that we are powerful beings. We're capable of creating joy and success or pain and suffering in our lives. What did Michelle say? I hail back to it again at the beginning. She says, I choose to take all the things that where I pour my negative energies and spill them over into positive energies. And Michelle, I'll have to say, is somebody I've seen that's been consistent on that almost since the day I knew her. And, you go look at her Instagram, you go look at things she posts, things she talks about. If Michelle has negative things to talk about, she doesn't dwell on them, and I rarely see her saying anything negative, because she chooses to do differently. So, what do you do with yourself? You honor yourself, then you tell the highest truth. You're powerful, capable beings of creating joy and success or pain and suffering. Do you know you can create pain and suffering in your life? We don't only choose to do that to other people sometimes, we do it to ourselves all the time. We keep taking ourselves down pegs. We create our own pain and suffering on top of perhaps pain and suffering that's given to us, either physically or emotional by other people. We're not destined to be victims. We have the power to choose. And this power is both the greatest responsibility that we have and the greatest opportunity we have to exhibit and use that power. I get an F minus at self-love and praise too, says Rick. Born Flippy is Rick. Sorry, Rick, I've revealed your secret identity. And, I do too. I get you, Rick. I understand that. Moving on, not only do we have to honor ourselves and who we really are and tell the highest truth, which is that we are powerful beings, but we have to honor who we are becoming. Self-love involves recognizing that we are constantly evolving and growing to become a more powerful and a more loving being. And for as cliche as some of that might sound, I'm not what what is it? I'm not what I wanna be, but I'm not what I used to be. We've heard that for decades since the New Age movement kinda hit. Then it morphed over into evangelicalism and all of those. But that's a truth. We have to honor who we're becoming because we're constantly evolving, we're constantly growing. Rick just said it, Michelle just said it, Sean said it. Everybody that's out here talking about this right now has said it. We have to evolve and grow and become more powerful and more loving. There are theological ramifications and aspects of this that I won't get into, but this was not taught when I went in seminary, when I was in a very conservative fundamentalist seminary, evangelical, other things were taught as being more important than self-love. And, we would have been told that Jesus didn't go for all this self-love, self-help stuff. He was here to serve others. That might be true. That might be true on a theological level, but I think there's something else to that on a spiritual level with Jesus. I don't think he was full of self-loathing, self self-loathing. I'm having trouble speaking tonight. I don't know what it is. I feel like I'm lisping a little bit. I don't know why I would be lisping unless my tongue is dry. Mm, which is real bad when you're doing radio. So you have to honor who you become, recognize that you're evolving. Then how about honoring your feelings and responding to those feelings? Honor what you feel. Honor what's surging up inside of you. You know, I can't talk about that. That's my feelings. Sometimes with guys, it's like feelings. Um, I remember once with a counselor, therapist, if you will, that I went to 35 years ago about some of my own personal stuff. And she said, "You know how to talk and you know how to articulate and you know how to do the." She said, "But how do you feel?" And I said, "I think I've just been talking about how I feel." She said, "No, you haven't. Tell me how you feel about that." And once she was able to crack that shell in me or crack that code, oh, everything gushed out. Then I was able to talk about that. And I don't always get in touch with my feelings the way I do. But you have to honor your feelings. Respond to those feelings that you have. Now, that doesn't mean we govern ourselves solely by our feelings. We can't do that either, because it's also a truism. We hear this more in political circles, but facts don't care about our feelings. There's truth to that. A fact is a fact no matter how you feel about it. So our feelings sometimes are things we have to keep in check, like government, for instance. You cannot govern solely on feelings. You have to have compassion, you have to have feelings, but you cannot govern on the basis of feelings alone. There has to be logic, and there has to be I keep getting pictures of Spock in this. There has to be logic, but, even that character began to recognize that I can't operate on logic alone. You have to respond to what you feel. So remember, feelings are really important signals. They're guide lights. And even the so-called negative feelings of anger and fear, they serve the important purpose of alerting us to obstacles in our life. What are the things that make you angry? What are the things that you fear? Those are things that are worth considering. And so honor those feelings and respond to them. Say, why do I feel that? Why do I have hatred or dislike, or why do I have that stuff going on in me? Why can't I convert that over into something positive? I have to be in touch with what I feel. I have to honor what I feel and respond to it in order to either go with it or course correct it. Sometimes feelings are just they're the wild flotsam and jetsam of our emotional existence is our feelings. Because we'll feel things sometimes doesn't necessarily mean because I feel something that it's the right thing to be or feel. It means I feel that, and now I've got to process that. So I don't know if you were responding to me on this, Sean, but you said, "Hey, you get one shot." I think that's about it. You get one shot. So, oh, I see where you were talking in the chat room. So also recognizing that the universe is literally made of love. If we will just open ourselves to receive, like flowers opening to the sun, if you will, then everything is possible. Now that's Ty Kane said that, a hypnotherapist and a life coach. If you and again, this is language, guys. Guys, rip some chest hair off while you go, yeah, I get it. Women, not so hard for them to understand because they are made differently. They're wired differently than we are. They use language differently than we do. But if we open ourselves to receive like flowers, that's the way I want to say that. Like flowers opening to the sun. Think of it in a biological sense. That flowers will open up to the sun. Everything's possible. That's what we have to do with our feelings. Michelle says over in the chat room, yes, Scotty, love is the force that binds the fabric of the universe together. Now it's interesting, I had an interesting conversation with a fellow a couple of days ago. We're having our base work done. We've gotta dig out and put new drainage, ditches and stuff like that, and blah, blah, blah. Keep our basement from flooding. And, older gentleman, he's the brother of the guy that built this house 30 years ago. We got to talking, and, he said something just out of the blue to me while we were talking. "Well, what do you do?" He said. I said, "Well, I'm an illustrator, I'm a writer." I said, "I do a radio show." And, he said something that was insightful enough, and I thought, "Who told you?" And, and we got to talking, and we talked for about an hour, just talking about theology and stuff like that. Now he tends to be a little more evangelical than I, but he's not an evangelical like the background I came from. And he would say, if I said the universe is made of love, he'd say, "Well, remember, God is also holy. And if God made the universe, we're all judged by or held to a standard of God." He made the statement that God hates sin. And right away, what I felt, and I hope this isn't just a rebellious nature against my old theology, against maybe the truth or something like that, but I inside, I have an inner bristle about that. God hates sin. Well, I believe that theologically, but I believe that while God is all love, if He made the universe is all love, it's bound together by that. He's also all holiness, and that His holiness cannot withstand evil. And I said to this guy, I said, my thinking on that, I have to ask the question, is God too small to overcome his hatred of evil? Now, of course, bear with me on this. You know where I'm going on this. I don't think God is that small. I said, I think man has made God that small. God is limited by his hatred of evil or his hatred of sin or whoever. And I said, then who defines what sin is and what isn't sin? And so we got into that big theological discussion. We had a good discussion. I saw that we disagreed on points, and I said, it's okay that we disagree. And he said kind of the same thing. Um, I'm getting into Pelagius territory, Scotty. He's one of my all-time favorites, so-called heretics. Yes, I'm having I designed a T-shirt, that had a heretic on it. Dropped off on my Etsy page because I didn't renew it, but um, I had that up there, heretic. Um, so those are questions we have to ask. But in all of this, and rounding back out, we have to recognize the universe is literally made of love. It's bound together by love. Now, maybe not love the way we define it. How do we define love? How do you define love? What is love? Well, love is when I ask out that chick and that chick says yes, and we kiss and we get married, and we have kids, and we blah, blah, blah. Some people have a very low substantive definition for what love is. It's a journey. Isn't that a Journey song, Michelle? I wanna know what love is. Wasn't that a Journey song? If I'm remembering correctly. And, that's it. I think love is one of those things that if I were to describe love, I might not get the textbook answer right, believe it or not, because I don't think about the definition of that so much. But it's like, this guy I was talking to the other day. His definition of love was that God loved the world so much that he gave his only begotten son, John 3:16. And I said, "I believe that. Love is a bump in the head," says Paul Roney. "How you doing, Patch? Good to see you. What is love? Baby, don't hurt me." Yep, there it is. What is love? We ask that question all the time. I look at that in my own marriage. My kids will say, "Wow, you and mom had a big fight." "Yeah, but we still love each other." I said, "Having fights, having arguments, and bickering, stuff like that, it's normal. But what's also normal is that we show our kids that we love each other, that our love for each other supersedes our need to feel that we have the right to be right." Rainey and I went to counseling about 13 years ago, something like that, and the first session, he heard our grievances and our stuff that was bothering about each other, and, uh, and we were definitely there because of my actions. We all know that story, that old story, and, he said, "Okay," he said, "I've let you both talk for about 15 minutes about stuff." He says, "You say this about her, she says this about you." He says, "You're talking against and about each other and at each other." He says, "I wanna ask you just one question." He said, "Do you want to be right or do you want to be married?" See, because those 2 things are not necessarily, uh, uh, compatible things. And he was talking about love. Do you want to love this person? Do you love this person? Do you want to love them better? You don't always have to be right. Now that went off on a totally different tangent. So, want out Barbie D. Want out Barbie D. I'm not sure what that was. I hope you're not gone, Sean Stroik. Out of context, because 'cause I'm not really watching that at this moment. We'll do some more talking when we come to the captain's cabin. But so there's a big question. You have to recognize that the universe is made of love. You say, "How can love make the physical universe, the astronomical, the geological, the geometrical, the every scientific way, biological? What has love got to do" Tina Turner. Um, what has love got to do with that? But the universe is bound together by love. That's a tough one to understand because we're taking what people consider to be a feeling and trying to attribute that to biology. But you know what? Our biology, look at our bodies. When I'm angry or if I get worked up about something, now you'll all recognize this in yourself. Now I recognize it more because of my heart stuff, but if I get really pissed off about something or really emotionally set, I feel it. So our emotions affect our biology. So emotions are part of biology. It's who we are, it's what we are made up of. And I think that's what Michelle was talking about. Yeah, what's love but a secondhand emotion, says Michelle. So, if we just open ourselves up to receive what's there, that's gonna imagine what we could do with our lives if we all really were able to focus on loving ourselves, accepting that the universe is love. And to say it that way sounds almost hippie, man, far out and groovy. Love the world, man. The universe is love. All you need is love. Na, 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 na. All you need is love. Love. Love is all you need. I mean, think of all the songs written about love. L is for the way you look at me. O is for the only one I see. B is very, very extraordinary. E is even more than anyone that you adore. Now love is all that I can give to you. Love is not only just a game for two. Two in love can make it. Take my heart. Now please don't break it. Love was made for me and you. So love, everything about love. Yeah, F the hippies, says Sean Strike. So maybe that's something we should talk about on another show. We should talk about How is the universe made of love? So for the sake of this show, keep that in mind. The universe is bound together by love. Now you could say, Is that the same love with which I love myself or love my wife or love my kids or love my mom and dad or whatever I love in this life? How can that hold another galaxy together in the universe? How is that talking about the universe on a spiritual level, that it holds all those things together? Rick says, "Love can be a harsh teacher." That honesty that Scotty's talking about, transformative indeed, yes. Love does for us. It's a schoolmaster. Michelle Cannon Free, she's out walking in the dark right now, pulling a wagon with a 2% dimmed screen. So, well, I'm glad you're still there, walking outside in the dark with your 2% screen. That's love. But keep in mind too, there's something here. Artificially propping up our self-esteem, our self-love can also be a deception. That can be a self-delusion. It might provide a temporary mental boost, but in the long run, it stunts social and personal well-being. Self-esteem is one thing, folks, but many psychologists have been preaching the gospel of self-delusion. They argue it's actually healthy to think more highly of yourself than reality warrants. There's nothing wrong with feeling good about ourselves or of course, we all know that. But when self-perception races ahead of reality, the likely result is a socially inept misfit. Uh, and as part of a decades-long study, there was this guy named Colvin, Northwestern University's C. Randall Colvin, that tracked 130 individuals since nursery school. And Colvin and his colleagues assessed subjects' personalities at ages 18 and 23, monitoring their traits like dependability, how subjects handle life's frustrations. The volunteers provided self-descriptions. Their friends contributed evaluations as well. When the researchers looked at the subjects who were self-enhancers, those whose glowing self-image bore little resemblance to their true personality, a really disturbing portrait emerged. Self-enhancers tend to be hostile. They lack social skills. They appear anxious and moody. They're sensitive to criticism. And they keep people at a distance, perhaps so that they don't get negative feedback that might alter their overly positive view. I know people like that. They're trying to hide their flaws from themselves. And many times they project that onto other people. If self-enhancers are deluding themselves, they're not fooling their friends, and they're not really even operating in self-love, are they? It's self-enhancing. Even their pals might describe self-enhancers as being hostile, condescending, unable to delay gratification. That was kind of the conclusions that, Colvin came up with. And when friends see through the facade, self-enhancers engage in more distortion and denial in an attempt to maintain a positive self-view. They deny what's going on. They deny what they're really like and the things that they need to take care of so people can see the distortion that they put up. Projection, yes, Michelle Cannon Free. Philip Blair, I think, said that too. How many hate in others what they hate in themselves? Very true. I do that. I might see something and I go, that person really rankles me. If I think about it, they might be doing something I don't like in myself, so I dislike it in somebody else. And when friends see through this facade, the self enhancers engage in a lot more distortion and denial in an attempt to keep maintaining a positive self view. They have to view themselves that way. And when you think about that, what a sad existence to have. I have to I deny what I really am and cover it up. Sometimes people they don't even realize they're doing it. They project that on others and put up a self-enhanced persona. And all of this suggests that artificially propping up someone's self-esteem, even yourself, this might provide a temporary mental boost. "Oh, damn, I feel good today." But in the long run, it stunts their social and personal well-being. Positive self-esteem is a great thing, but the context has to be based in and on reality. Knowing that imperfections exist and the first step to improving yourself. What is the first thing that happens when you try to improve yourself? You're gonna find your imperfections, blowing hard like a gale force wind in your face. When things go wrong or goals don't materialize, most people blame their past, their parents, life in general, or God. God, "Oh, God, I hate you for making me this way." We've all got that, and we've all seen people who do that. God's always to blame. Why is there so much death and hatred in the world? I hate you, God, for creating death and hatred. Some people do. Hatred comes from people just like love comes from people. We're even encouraged to do this by friends and family who are well-meaning. We also devote a great to look back at our past and find where to blame things. And I have found that the people who blame their past, blame their parents, blame their religion, blame whatever for their problems of their past, and they go, "Ah, there, now I can move forward." They don't, they bring that all with them because they never released the blame. That's their excuse for the way things are. I've always said, you can look to the past and isolate and identify and define that thing that may have turned you this way or made you do this or set this mode of operation and so on. But you can't camp back there. And once you recognize and you go, "Aha, now I know what I can do about that." You don't leave it there. I'm sorry, you don't live back there, you leave it back there and you move on. Michelle says, in the chat room, "I'm so grateful for my terrifying and loveless childhood." I had a very loving childhood. I had bad things that happened. I We had all kinds of rough stuff, rough edges and things, but we basically loved each other. That's what got us through things. We devote a great deal of energy to settling for what is without recognizing what we can become. Right, Michelle? Some of what we're talking about over there. We settle for what is rather than realize what we can become. And all the great wisdom teachings and traditions speak of the unlimited power that we have inside us. Both quantum physics, psychology, they offer proof that our thoughts create our reality. Yet many people strenuously object to the truth that we create our own reality. People that argue with that. They argue that it's not loving to tell a sick person they had anything to do with creating their illness. Yet by not owning their power when they're sick, they're consigning themselves to a life of being a victim of any virus or circumstance that comes their way. This powerlessness is the source of most depression, and it leads to more illness and problems like overeating, sexual addictions, all these things. It's more honest and even more loving to gently help people recognize the power they have to create their reality, including failures. And once we do that, then we have to forgive ourselves for the painful experiences we've previously chosen in our lives. I don't know all the parts of me that are creating the failed relationships, but I'm willing to learn about them. Is one way of looking at that. And we've only got a couple of minutes left for the radio audience, and then we'll go over into the captain's cabin. But only by seeing how in the past that we've allowed problems to control us, and by forgiving ourselves of that, can we really change and be free to move forward in life feeling more powerful and able to create the success and the happiness that we want so badly. Forgiveness is not the only form of self-love. It's a completely inside job. You first have to own your mistakes. And here's how in less than a minute. Imagine a future where you are totally loving yourself and have totally owned your power. Imagine that. Imagine it now. Reach for an understanding of why you'd choose limitations in your life. Why would you choose to be limited? We're often taught by family and life experiences that being a weak, sick, or helpless person is the way to get attention or help. Look at your own and other people's attempts to get acceptance, attention, and love, and ask yourself, what was I taught about being lovable? About being powerful and responsible for my life? Then forgive yourself for having made mistakes. And imagine how your future self would forgive you for a mistake. Imagine, how would my future self forgive me for the mistake I made yesterday? Then you can consciously create better methods for getting the acceptance, the attention, the love, and the success that you want. And on that note, radio audience, we got to leave you. Stay tuned for the captain's cabin right here. Don't go away. Live long and prosper, radio audience.
Join us every weeknight at 9 p.m. Central Standard Time, 10 p.m. Eastern. The Intrepid radio program, a Scotty Roberts Productions broadcast.
Hey folks, this is Scotty Roberts, and this is the Intrepid radio broadcast. I've been broadcasting for about 20 years now, covering such topics as science, politics, the paranormal, weird science, weird world history, archaeology, and the paranormal. Everything from ghosts to cryptids to creepy things that go bump in the night. So every week I bring you 3 new episodes. Come and join my channel and also be a patron to this site. So see the details below, and we'll see you here. Well, and welcome back to the captain's cabin. Good to have you all sitting in here tonight. Glad to have you on board the ship, as they say. So, what do you think of all that stuff about loving yourself? I think it's very important. I think that we overlook that sometimes in our day-to-day lives. We overlook it because we don't think about that. We got stuff to do. We can't think about loving myself. Are you scallywags? I love that, Rick. I remember there was a commercial up here, God, about 10 years ago for the Science Museum of Minnesota or no, it was a big pirate exhibit they had at the Science Museum, and they had a parrot talking to a dog, and he said the same thing. The parrot was sitting on his perch, and he's like, "Rock!" He goes, "Wake up, you lazy sea dog, you scallywag!" So that reminded me of. No context for most of you, but there it is. A Valentine to oneself, says Rendell Flagg. That would be Mr. Bean. There you go. God is love, says Philip Blair. Yeah. Of course, theologically, we always argued with that. And I don't know why. Because, yes, God is love. He's the epitome of love. Yet we always said, but remember, before God is love, he is also holy. He cannot look on sin. And I say, well, I think he can, because it's a choice to not look on sin. So am I being a heretic? As you pointed out so vividly, Philip, and possibly. I question that. I question the mechanics of that. I question God's ability to look on sin. I remember the scripture said that God is not the originator of evil. Yet you see, and people go, oh, well, there was a different meaning for that. Remember when God is going to destroy the people, and he tells Moses up on the mountain, I'm going to destroy these people. God, they pissed me off. God damn it, God says. They pissed me off so bad. I'm going to destroy them all. And Moses, I'm going to start the whole promise I gave to Abraham, that his seed shall inherit the earth and so on. And there'll be a chosen people. I'm going to start it all over again in you. Did God have the ability to do that? Sure. Sure he did. But then it took Moses to remind God. But God, if you did that, yes, you have the power to do that. But if you did that, you would be breaking your word to Abraham. And isn't part of what makes you who you are the fact that you stand by your word? And he used more theological language than that. And what does it say? It says, and God repented or turned his back on the evil that he was going to do to Israel, to the Hebrews, because Moses changed his mind. Now, was God thrown around by his emotions, or was God making a point? That's the theological lesson that we always taught. He's making a point about what he was doing. So, yeah, God is all love, yes. Breaking the rock to find the spring. Yeah, exactly. God told Moses to strike the rock, but then the disobeying part was when it happened again, God said, just speak to the rock. Don't strike it this time. And Moses was pissed off at the people, and he struck the rock anyway. And he said something like, why do we always have to take care of you? Crack, and he strikes the rock. And the rock spilled forward water. But then God pretty much said to Moses, you keep equating yourself to me. And you got to stop that. And as a matter of fact, you've done it enough. He says that you're not going to be allowed to go into the promised land, which you've just spent the last 40 years leading your people like a band of nomads across the deserts of Sinai, and now you don't get to go in. Was that the love of God or the holiness of God at play there? It's a good question, huh? God is love, but also more than that, says Sarah Yusuf. Yeah, exactly. It's more than that. What do you think God is other than love, Sarah, when you make that statement? Oh, by the way, I found these. These are all I have left of these. And I got to keep one for myself, which leaves me 2 or 3 of these to give away. I think Flynn wants one. We're going to find a good drawing to do for these. This is the original poster. You can see it's a little crushed. It's not bent, but it's a little crushed. It was in a roll, and it got a little squished. But this is the original promo poster for the Rollicking Adventures of Tam O'Hare. I've got a couple of these that, and I hope I have a couple more than just this. There might be some in a trunk out there, and I happen to find these loose in something. But that was that original poster, and I'm trying to think of something to do to use this as a giveaway. Something like that. Enter people's names into a drawing or something. And at one time would take these to shows and sell them. And I had a whole case of these things. And there's only 3 here. I can't believe this is all I have left, but I'll find out. That's just sitting on my desk. I just noticed that sitting there. Dibs, says Rick. We'll have to think of a good giveaway. Rick, you might get one anyway, just because of who you is. So, hey, can I show you guys something? I know people think, some people don't like that I do this. I don't care. This is my show. You know, I'm working on the archaeology book, and I've finished up. I've only got a couple of illustrations to finish, and I plan on having that book completed by this Friday, by the end of the day. But I want to show you, just because I love them and I'm proud of them, I want to show you a couple of the illustrations that I finished this week. And I want to see what you think of these. Now, you remember some of the ones, the kid wading in the water, the pipe head, the archaeologist when he's grown up, viewing the face on the statue. I've got a couple that I did just this week. And I want you to see these. You okay with it? I'll show them to you. What am I doing? I'm looking for something. There it is. I'm going to load a couple of these in so you can take a peek at them and see what you think. And I'll throw up some of the old ones too, because most of you have seen these. And at least the ones I've already done. And I've been illustrating this book for like a year and a half to 2 years. Something like that. And so this will get, and I showed a couple the other day. But let me find the very first one of the boy wading in the river, just for point of reference. And I'll show you that one as well. But this is what I'm working on. This is almost done, folks, this project. It's going to be a little hardcover book. That's, and it's only, think of the little golden books. It's going to be like that. The printing company is one that I helped name and that I was part of originally, Little Platinum Books. Done the same way to look that way, just a little bigger in size, 1/4 inch thick, something like that. And so it's going to be a fun book to have on your shelf. It's going to be like The Sword and the Clay. Let's see. Hold on a second. Let's see if I can right here. No, that's not it. That's not okay. We'll just move on with what we got. So here are the ones that I just did this week. So I showed you this one the other day. Here it is. Boom. This is our main character. It's a book about archaeology, Philip Blair. It's called How to Be an Archaeologist. And I read through the book the other day just for the fun of it. And I'll just tell you, the first page got the boy wading in the river, and it says, this is the way the book is written, Philip. And anybody who doesn't know. It's written, it starts just like this. It says, you had no idea You were just out to play, wading in the shallows of the river that day. When your bare toes dislodged it, knocked it loose from the clay, a pipe made of meerschaum, 100 years in the cray. Someone had lost it or tossed it away from the bridge that spanned the river Cray, and it goes on and on and on. And it's this boy finds this old pipe, and it inspires him to find out, what is this thing? Where'd it come from? Who's the face on the pipe? It was a meerschaum carved pipe. And then he grows up and becomes an archaeologist. So the book is about how to be an archaeologist. It's pursuing your dreams and following the things that you're inspired to follow. So this is as the little boy is growing up. He's at college now, obviously. They're having drinks, and this is the page where it mentions, you see the ghostly figure like Obi-Wan from Star Wars? That's Louis Leakey, because it mentions Louis Leakey, that you're kind of drinking a toast to him. But there's that one. And the next one I did was this one. This is where it talks about starting to learn how to dig things up in the clay. That's archaeology isn't just about digging in the dirt. It's about this, it's about that, it's about that, and it's all told in this rhyme. So there's that one I just finished the other day. And then there's this one. I just finished this a couple of hours ago. This is as now he's graduated college and he's going out to, as a matter of fact, this page, I'll read you this particular page. But here, let's get back to this one right here. This is the one I just finished this evening, as a matter of fact. And it reads like this on the page. It says, now that you've hung your BA on the wall, it's time to get serious. Set your mind to the long haul of earning your master's, writing papers and theses, of travel and internships working as an assistant. Anthropology, it's said, is the study of people, how they hunted and farmed, built monuments unspeakable. You study ancient languages and decipher religions, examine statues and pottery and tribal divisions. From the Maya to the Aztec, the Anasazi and Hun, the Indus Valley migration and ancient Egypt 101. You absorb all the books, take your tests and read papers, siphoning all that you can from these academic capers. So that's that page, and that's how that one reads. So this is one I just finished today. Thanks, Rick. And so this is a combination of hand-drawn and digital work for those of you interested. Like this guy, for instance, the skeletal remains. I sketched this in pencil. Then I traced it digitally and inked it digitally and colored it digitally. Now, this is a little different style, but I tried to make everything incorporate. I painted this digitally. Same with this one. There's a lot in this picture that's digitally painted. Even though I drew them by hand, I digitally painted them. So thanks, Rick, though. So this is what this book is looking like that. And if you remember, and some of you, I'll show you one more. Indulge me for just another minute. Some of you have seen this before, but don't let that dissuade you from sticking around and listening to this and watching this and so on. I'll show you two more pictures from this that you've all seen before. And this is so you can make a quick... see, do I even have these saved? I'm sure I do, because I've showed them to you before. How to be an archaeologist, blah, 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 blah. There's supposed to be a PDF there, and there's not. I don't know. I must have saved those somewhere else. So never mind. I won't do it. I'm not going to waste my time on that right now. But there you go. You get the idea. So that's what I've been working on this week. I've got 4 more illustrations to finish, and I've got 2 days to meet my deadline. And they're roughly taking me about a day to finish, but that's when I'm not really concentrating and focusing on it. I think I can get what I've got left penciled out. I could probably finish in the next couple of days. And worst case, through the weekend, I can get these done. So thank you, Michelle. But I love this stuff. This is what I live to do. If I didn't have to worry about keeping a roof over my family's head, I do this all the time, then this would put a roof over my family's head. It's on the side now, and that's why it's taken so long to get this thing completed and out there, because it's all sits in the wings. Get bustin', homie, says Rick. Yeah, exactly. 4 more pictures to do, and it's done. This one. The book's already all laid out. And it's here. You know how I've done this before? I'll do it for you this way. Let me share my screen. Entire screen. Share. Okay, now you're going to see this weird look here in the window. Boom, boom, boom. Here, I'll take you over here. This is where the book is. This is where it's all laid out. I've shown you this before. This is the inside title page you're looking at right there. Right reading page. And then how to be an archaeologist. And then you go on. It's got now it's a 2-page spread you're seeing laid out in front of you. Let's see if I can open that up anymore. Let's see. Where's my... Come on. I can open it up a little bit. All right. So yeah, it goes to the inner title pages, the legal stuff, dedication. And then it starts with this. This is what I just recited to you. You had no idea. You were just out to play, waiting in the shallows of the river that day. When your bare toes dislodged it, broke it loose from the clay, a pipe carved in meerschaum, 100 years in the cray. Someone had lost it or tossed it away off the bridge in your town that spanned River Cray, which is a place in England. I don't name that in the book, but I use the name of the river. The pipe bank sank to the bottom, and for the next 100 or so years lay quietly waiting for you to appear. So that's how the book starts. You can see how it's laid out. It's 2-page spreads. There's the pipe. It's Admiral Lord Nelson. He runs up to the curiosity shop to check it out. What is it? He puts it up on his shelf, and he says, carefully, delicately, you clean off the tarnish. You add a new stem and a light coat of varnish. Up on your bookshelf, you set up a display where it will stand and remain until that one day when the right time arrives to light it and smoke it. Only you will know when, and you will not postpone it. So then he goes off to college, grows up, he's going to college. This one you saw. This is the one that says, your home away from home was the library on campus. It was there that you researched and studied your arse off. There were good times with your mates. You drank plenty of beer. You had to do something that helped you to steer people away from thinking you overly freaky, for your studious focus made you seem rather geeky. Not to mention your scholarly pallor, so creepy. But you were, after all, following the steps of Lou Leakey, whose condensed milk and cognac was anything but cheeky. So here's to the beers, and here's to the cheers, and here's to the books for the next 3 or 4 years. So that's what that picture was. Then you go on to this one, where archaeology isn't just digging in the dirt. It's not always about this and that, and it goes on. It's about remains. And this, now that you've hung your BA on the wall, it's time to get serious. And all the things he's studying. Then I've got 1, 2, 3 there. And this one you've seen. This was actually the first picture I did when it was just an idea. I hadn't even written the book yet. But this is I'll read this page too. It's where I have to read the previous page. You won't find it in books. They don't teach it in school. Now listen to this, by the way, folks. Listen to this, because this is not just a book about archaeology. This is my heart. These are the things I think of. This is the way I believe. It's the way I act in life. And that's why this is so exciting for me. You won't find it in books. They don't teach it in school. The universities won't break with their cardinal rule that says it's all science, just history, nothing more. They give you lectures and letters, then matriculate you to the door. But it's there in that moment, after years of hard work, of reading, writing papers, and digging in the dirt, that you find yourself breathing the air of the ancients. You've moved rocks, sifted silt, and now here you face it. Eternal life, it was written, resides in the name. Remembrance and utterance is the name of that game. So you drop to your knees, assuaging your fears, and for the very first time in thousands of years, you gaze into eyes that shed only stone tears. Your fingers brush lightly on glyphs carved so bold, and there on the lintel, where in antiquity was told the story of this man, now 3,000 years old, in the recounting of his life and his deeds of great fame, lay the resurrection to be found only in his name. His face to your face, your words to his ears. You speak out his name not uttered in years, and the statue before you breaks free of its bonds, reconnecting with life in the light of the gods. And yada, yada, and yada, yada, and on it goes. So, Philip Blair, was I inspired by Indiana Jones? Yeah, 40 years ago I was, and still am to a certain degree. Many people I know, John Ward, who's an archaeologist, went into archaeology because this is loosely based on his story, by the way, and it's going to say that in a little afterword at the back of the book. His story, how he got into archaeology, he said, I can really trace it back to when I was a little kid. The River Cray ran through our town or near our house, and I was out in the River Cray, and I found an old pipe, an old meerschaum pipe, and it was Admiral Lord Nelson. And he says, that really sparked my curiosity and got me going in archaeology. As a matter of fact, when I read this to him about a year ago for the first time, he goes, that's my story. I said, well, in part, that's your origin story. So the book was inspired by John and others and my experiences, but my love of archaeology was really sparked. I had that conversation with somebody just the other day who said, well, Indiana Jones isn't a very good archaeologist. He was an adventure hunter, treasure hunter, and things like that. And it's a little different kind of character. He broke some cardinal rules of archaeology. But he inspired a lot of archaeologists my age now, John's age, who's 10 years younger than me. Always an inspiration. So yeah, Philip. Thanks, Sean Stroik. Scotty Robertson the rhyme, he says. Thank you. So yeah, I've just got 4 pictures left to finish. 4. And it's taken me almost 2 years to get to this point, because I did the first illustration and it sat. And I told you all about it. Look at this illustration I did, and I showed it on the show back then. And showed a couple of illustrations as I went along the way. And I've read the book a couple of times. I finally wrote the book, and I read that a couple of times. And so it's kind of a kid's book for adults that adults will enjoy reading to their kids. That was really the concept behind Little Platinum Books when I started that with my friend Pete. And Pete's, I kind of bailed out of that. I just didn't have time for it. And so Pete's Little Platinum Books. I don't know how far that'll ever go, if it ever does, beyond just publishing the couple of books we said we'd publish. Yeah, the movie version is often more adventurous. Exactly. Oh, so there's that. That's what I'm working on this week. How about all of you? What's going on? You know, you can call into this show if you so choose. We can't stay as late as you want, but the beauty here right now, I don't have any familial obligations tomorrow. I got stuff to do, yeah. But what's neat is like yesterday, I have a weird sleep schedule. I slept really shitty the night before. And I got up and I worked on illustrations and stuff. And then I went, I gotta go lay down. Around 2 p.m. I slept for like 2.5 hours. Because I'd only slept like 3.5 the night before. And so I got up and I did my stuff, and then I worked until 1 this morning working on illustrations. And I slept until 7:30, even though my body still wakes me up at 5, and I fell asleep for 45 minutes before the radio show. So you get it. My schedule is weird. So, but Michelle has got to call in. Yes, she does. Call in. Hey, Barbie D, by the way. I don't think I ever said hello to you tonight. You should call in, Michelle. You got the number. You know where to call. You know what to do. So there it is. I posted the link for calling in. Keep hearing knocking. I know it's the cats. There's one of the cats is doing something. It's up at the top of the stairs or something. Or he's in the bathtub, which is over there past the stairway, but he thumps around in there and I can hear it all the way down here. I keep hearing him, so I don't know. Okay, what are you guys doing? So nobody's here other than the animals. It could also be the chicken. We have a chicken, and we talked about him last time. He's indoors right now. We don't leave him out at night because he's just an invite. He is a glowing beacon for raccoons and other animals that would like to eat him. So he's safe during the day out in the fenced-in backyard. But we've got a huge backyard, which is nice. Only part of it's fenced in that closes up to the house. And so he stays inside the chain link fence in the backyard. But otherwise, we just let him wander. Put up the chicken coop, and they go in the chicken coop at night. When we had 30 chickens, that's what they did. But he's been in the house at night ever since he could start going outside. And these chicks about 3 months old, something like that. So, yeah, when no one's upstairs, Randall Flagg. This I happen to know is the animals. I know that because they're the only ones doing that right now. But we always get stuff. We get weird stuff. Rainey always got weird stuff. Rainey attracts that stuff. Not as much recently, but her stuff is very different that she attracts and at different times and all through our relationship. So something here, something there. Philip says, I'm very pleased with the UFO hearings we had this morning. Very inspiring, refreshing to see our Congress be serious and nonpartisan, a good, healthy tonic for America. We could use something healthy and uplifting. So, and it's going to be this way forever. It's always this way. It's always been this way. It's just we haven't seen it as well as we've seen it in recent years. And I gotta keep myself up to snuff on what's going on with those hearings. So is it a distraction? People say that's just a distraction. It's bread and circuses for the public. I think it could be if somebody's so invested in that they'll ignore everything else that's going on. There's a lot of stuff going on in government right now, this administration, that are bread and circuses, or the Punch and Judy show, or the, hey, look over here while we do this over here. And so I thought it was interesting that, did you see the videos on Mitch McConnell today? And his there, I just demonstrated it. He was speaking and he just went blank. He couldn't remember the next word, and he stood there for a good, solid, doesn't sound like long until you sit there quiet for a second, 15, 20 seconds, just staring at the audience. And finally, one of his, I don't know who it was, one of his assistants or somebody came up next to him and said, Mitch, Do you have anything else you want to say? Maybe we come on, Mitch, come with us. Let's go back to your office. Yeah, he looked very eerie, Barbie D. And then they said, "Do you have anything else you want to say?" And he gave the mumbly, kind of shook it off and left. His remote operator lost connection. That's what it looked like, Rick. And so I've seen some commentators, and Mitch is supposed to be conservative and Republican. You even hear the Republicans and conservatives going, "Hey, Mitch, it's time to step down." So I heard somebody comment, "Wow, DC is becoming a geriatric ward." And I have no love for that guy either, Randall Flagg. I used to like Mitch McConnell. Lost it for him over several things over the recent years. But I looked at him and I looked at that video and I go, "Hey, Mitch, it's time to go home. All right, you did your bid for God and country, your interpretation of it. There's no reason to stay there." And why is he there even? Because nobody's told him to go home yet. I think he needs to be told, "Mitch, you got to go home. This is it. You're done." Philip Blair says if it was a distraction, they wouldn't fight so hard to throw a tarp over UFOs and bury them. Yeah, exactly. Look up the 71 obituary of James McDonald in the New York Times. I'll do that. But I agree with you, Philip. I think it's more than that. I think it's a real story. A real story can be used as a distraction too. But I think it's good that they're finally acknowledging this. That they're finally doing something to get the word out there. And there's a lot of people. I'm not in the know. I know people who are in the know. And so I don't have a big axe to grind in it as far as I've been pushing for this for years. I haven't been. I've been on the sidelines of that, enjoying watching what they're doing and really rooting for them for disclosure. And some people are saying the whole disclosure thing is a distraction. No, it's an issue. It can be used as a distraction, but it's an issue. Go into the light, Mitch, says Randall Flagg. Go to the light, Carrie Ann. So what do y'all think? Aliens. This guy I was talking to the other day that I mentioned in the show. He asked me what I felt about aliens. And I said, I believe they're real. He said, I don't. I think it's all demonic. And there are people that have come out and said, well, I think that there's close ties to the demonic. I think that there are people that equate them to the demonic. While there are some who say they are the demonic. You can equate them to the fae and the fairy folk, the elementals of all different kinds of cultures. So, who is Mitch's number 2? I don't know. I think they have to be appointed. If Mitch withdraws, there's no reason for him to stay. He cannot do his job. His people have to convince him of that. You cannot do your job. And by the way, they said it was this behavior of his really exacerbated by a kind of a traumatic head injury he had with a fall earlier in the year. And he's been declining since then. He's old enough that took out something. And it's time. It's time to go, I can't do this job right now. And I don't think he has the cognitive awareness to decide whether or not he should be there. Shouldn't be his choice. You do it graciously and gracefully. And you say, Mitch, it's time. You got to resign. Everybody's supporting you to do this. That's how you handle those situations with people. And if he puts up a fight about it, you go, you're going to be removed from office if you don't resign from office. You just can't go on this way for anybody. I think the only reason Biden is still in office is the Democrats don't want Kamala Harris as president. Oh, my. And what's going to happen with all that? Because there's some pretty real junk going on with the Hunter Biden investigations, which link directly to the presidency, which link directly to obstruction and obstructing a free election. Somebody reasoned it out the other day. I heard him say, well, if they say 67% of people who voted for Biden in the last election said they would not have had they known about the Hunter Biden and his connections to it. That's 7% of 81 million. 81 million votes, folks. That's what he got. Wink, wink, nudge, nudge. And so I see some guys making fun every now and then. You look at some of Biden's, the stuff that's going on with him that you go, oh my God. Even if you loved him and supported him, you go, oh my God, he can't remain in office. And I love being the guy that says, hey, 81 million votes. There it is. So Born Flippy says, then into your life there comes a darkness and a spacecraft blocking out the sky. And there's nowhere to hide. You run to the back and you cover your ears, but it's the loudest sound you've ever heard. This is your story, isn't it, Rick? If I remember right. Something to that. Over 100 million Americans are eligible to be POTUS, Scotty Roberts, and look who our choices are. Exactly. I think we can do better than our choices. I think the current choices, there's one I would vote for and one I wouldn't. But I think I've said to Democrats that I have those conversations with. Say, look, I'm not a Republican, whether you think I am or not. I'm an independent. I'm a Jeffersonian liberal. But you look at, which means I tend to vote Republican. Voting Republican doesn't make me Republican. It means that's my best choice. But you look at that, and I've said to Democrats, I've said, I'm not unwilling to vote for a Democrat. It just depends on what they stand for. I look at them as individuals. What do you stand for? There are Democrats I would have voted for. When they ran Joe Biden, why did they run him? They thought he was the only guy that could beat Trump. Please. And I don't think he did. That's my personal thing. I'm not some big conspiracy theorist, but I just don't think he did. I don't think he got more votes than Obama got. Just doesn't happen. So all of that to say is I do believe that there were better people for the job. There's better people now. Why in hell would they run him again? I heard somebody give this theory. What do you think of this theory? This theory that they're going to remove Biden from office, 25th Amendment stuff. Can't conduct the duties anymore. They're going to have him removed. Got to resign, Joe. Placing Kamala Harris as president for the last year and a half, whatever it is. She will not be the candidate for the Democrats. If Biden's out of the race, she will not be Kamala Harris stepping in. She will fill out the term. But they think they're prepping. They're doing this to put the first black, quote unquote, because she's not black, first black woman president, Kamala Harris, by default. But then they'll put in Michelle Obama to run. What do you think of that? What do you think her chances are of running, of winning? Now, I'll tell you this. I don't think she's any better than Biden as far as policies. Worse, maybe. But Biden doesn't think for himself anyway. At least Michelle Obama, they're very charismatic people. I see that scenario as being one that works out. What do you think of that? Good night, Sarah. She's falling asleep. I'm sorry. That's my fault. I should have you so animated that you wouldn't fall asleep. And we'll probably get out of here, too. I generally have a cardinal rule. When the chat room, the room drops to less than 10 people, I pretty much start to wrap it up. And we're at 8. That doesn't mean there aren't other people listening out there. It just means that's where we're at in the physical chat room. So I miss Uncle Dave. If he were here, we usually had a lot more than this at this point in the night. So I think a lot of people didn't know we were broadcasting live tonight either. So, because I've been doing just the Patreon page. It's been a long day. Been a long UFO day. I got to look into that more, Philip. Maybe we'll talk about UFOs on Friday. I know Niall Parkinson, our friend in Ireland, we had talked almost 2 weeks ago now about possibly doing a show on the Fae and the fairy folk and that realm again from a different perspective. And so I got to work that up too. So, yeah, Uncle Dave. We've got his coming up on the 12th of August. We've got his memorial service at the church and then his celebration of life at the Masonic Lodge, which is bound to have several hundred people there from the looks of it. From all the different communities Dave was part of, the creative communities, the theater groups, the sword fighting group, the festival people, the 42nd Royal Highlanders, which I was part with him in all of these groups to one degree or another. And so that's going to be, the church service is going to be small. That's with his brother John, Uncle John, we're calling him now. He comes in on Sundays and sometimes in the captain's cabin. Randall Flagg, I think you're right. I wouldn't want to see Michelle Obama run if that theory holds true, because I think she's electable, not because she has the best policies, but because she's Obama's wife. And the Obamas were very popular. She's outspoken. I think she'd be tougher to run against than Joe Biden, that's for sure. But I think leaving off where we kind of left off on that thought, I think there were a lot of Democrats that I would have voted for. Now I look at somebody like Tulsi Gabbard. She's now a Republican. She switched sides. But I'd have voted for her when she was a Democrat. I didn't agree with everything she said, but I agreed with who she was and what she believed in. And I could see, even if I disagreed with their policies or the planks of their campaign or their philosophies, I could vote for people who were real people and thought for themselves. So, and no insult meant to anybody seriously, sincerely, but I honestly don't think that, I think a Democrat who thinks for themselves outside party lines can't be a Democrat anymore. Like what happened to Tulsi Gabbard. So, Obama-McCain was my favorite election because I like both Obama and McCain as people. I liked them both too. I used to say of Obama, I don't agree with a single damn thing that he puts forward, but I'd love to have a beer with him and arm wrestle him for the tab. I remember saying that back when he was running for re-election. So I said, I like the guy. I disagree with what he believes in. That's all. I like RFK right now. RFK's a Democrat. I'd vote for RFK if it came down to that. Anita Palmer, she's not in here tonight. Oh, there you go. Like RFK, Joe Lieberman. Yeah. So, hey, Dead End. Good to see you. That's Niall, folks. Oh, I gave away your secret identity, Niall. Sorry. I thought you announced it in here once. Hello to all the self-lovers, he says. That's right. Well, Niall, we're just wrapping it up now. Just a few minutes earlier than before. So we were just talking about you. Maybe your ears were tingling. So I like RFK Jr. I do. Damn, I like the way his stance on a lot of things. So I could see that. I could see him as president. Well, folks, there we are. We started to wrap this up because we're going to be done for tonight. And Niall, sorry, we're going to wrap it up, and but Friday, I'm going to see what we're going to talk about Friday. I was just mentioning you, Niall, because of what the discussion you and I had about possibly doing something on the Fae and the fairy folk and so on. Let me work out what we're going to do for Friday, and we might do that. So all of you, I'm going to get out of here. I'm going to let you all get out of here. Thank you for being here. Thank you for being part of the show. Thank you for being part of my life. I want to ask you, if you want, go over to my Patreon page, which I'm trying to build up. And hopefully that will be a way that we can help fund bigger and better things here on Intrepid Radio. And it's patreon.com/Scotty Roberts. It's that easy. And all the rest of you, everybody, thank you for being here. I'm going to get out of here now. I'm going to leave you with a good night and live long and prosper.